The story begins with a new and powerful government agency. It is called the Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE for short. This department was created at the start of President Trump's second term in January 2025. The idea was to bring a modern, tech-focused approach to the federal government. The initial concept was championed by tech billionaire Elon Musk. The stated goal of DOGE is simple but ambitious: to streamline government operations, cut down on wasteful spending, and fight fraud and abuse within federal programs. It aims to act like an internal auditor, looking for ways to make the massive machinery of government run better and cost less for the American taxpayer. DOGE was designed to be a special kind of agency, one that could look across different parts of the government. Its mission involves updating outdated computer systems, improving data analysis, and finding inefficiencies that cost billions of dollars each year. Think of it as a team of experts brought in to fix a large, complicated company that has been doing things the same way for decades. The department is led by Administrator Amy Gleason, who is tasked with carrying out this vision of a leaner, more effective government. The Trump administration has argued that for DOGE to succeed, it needs broad access to information to see the full picture of how things are currently working or not working. However, this new department quickly became a source of major debate. Its broad mandate to investigate other agencies has raised questions about power and oversight. Critics worry that DOGE could be used for political purposes rather than just for improving efficiency. The department's creation marks a significant shift in how the government oversees itself. Instead of relying solely on existing inspectors general within each agency, DOGE was established as a centralized force with the authority to probe deep into the inner workings of some of the nation's most critical institutions. This has set the stage for major conflicts over control and information. The core of the conflict lies in DOGE's need for data. To find waste and fraud, the department says it must be able to examine the raw information that flows through federal agencies every day. This includes everything from spending reports to personnel files. The White House, through spokesperson Liz Houston, has strongly supported DOGE's mission, praising it as a necessary step to modernize government for the 21st century. But this push for data has led to a major showdown over one of the most sensitive collections of personal information held by the U.S. government, the records of the Social Security Administration. The Social Security Administration, or SSA, holds some of the most private information about nearly every American. This is not just about retirement benefits. The data stored by the SSA is a detailed profile of a person's life. It includes your Social Security number, which is the key to your financial identity. It also contains your full name, date of birth, and address. But the records go much deeper than that. They hold sensitive medical and mental health information for people receiving disability benefits. They also contain detailed financial records, including tax information and bank account details used for direct deposits. For many, this data even includes personal family matters from court records. This information is protected for a very good reason. If it fell into the wrong hands, the damage could be immense. Identity theft is a major concern. With just a Social Security number and a few other details, criminals could open credit cards, take out loans, or file fraudulent tax returns in your name. There are also deep privacy concerns. Your medical history, for example, is something you share with your doctor, not the public. People worry that having this information accessible to a new government agency could lead to it being misused or exposed, potentially affecting their ability to get a job, a loan, or even just live their lives without judgment or discrimination. Because this data is so sensitive, it is protected by a strong federal law called the Privacy Act of 1974. This law sets strict rules about how the government can collect, use, and share your personal information. Generally, one government agency cannot simply hand over your private records to another agency without your explicit consent. The law was created to prevent the government from building a massive, centralized database on all its citizens. It ensures that information collected for one purpose, like managing your Social Security benefits, is not used for another purpose without a very good reason and clear legal authority. The conflict began when DOGE demanded full and unredacted access to this vault of SSA data. DOGE argued that it needed to see everything to do its job of finding fraud and making the system more efficient. The SSA, however, initially resisted. The former acting commissioner, Michelle King, even resigned rather than grant access, citing deep concerns about violating the Privacy Act. This created a standoff. On one side, you have an agency created to modernize government. On the other, you have the guardian of Americans' most personal data, backed by a law designed to protect individual privacy from government overreach. With the lower courts blocking access, the Trump administration took its case to the highest court in the land. On June 6, 2025, the U.S. Supreme Court made a major decision. In a 6-3 ruling, the court granted DOGE immediate, though temporary, access to the sensitive Social Security data. This was not a final ruling on whether DOGE's request is legal. Instead, it was an emergency order that lifts the blocks put in place by lower courts while the legal battle continues. The court decided that the government's arguments were strong enough to allow access for now. The case was sent back to the 4th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals for a full hearing on the legal merits. The supporters of this decision, including the Trump administration and the new SSA Commissioner, Frank Bisignano, celebrated the ruling. Their argument is straightforward. They claim that DOGE is not an outside entity, but a part of the executive branch, just like the SSA. According to Solicitor General D. John Sauer, sharing information between agencies for official duties is permitted under the Privacy Act. He argued that DOGE staff are essentially working for the SSA to help them modernize, so they need the same access as regular SSA employees to do their work. The administration says this is essential for national security and for saving taxpayers' money. However, the opposition was swift and strong. The court's 3 liberal justices, Sonia Sotomayor, Elena Kagan, and Ketanji Brown Jackson, dissented. In a powerful dissenting opinion, Justice Jackson wrote that the decision poses grave privacy risks for millions of Americans. She argued that the government had not proven why its need was so urgent that it had to bypass the normal legal process. The groups that filed the lawsuit, including major labor unions and the Alliance for Retired Americans, echoed these fears. They argue that this gives DOGE unfettered access to private records before the courts have even decided if it is legal, potentially violating the Privacy Act of 1974. To make matters more complicated, the Supreme Court issued a second order on the same day. It temporarily allows DOGE to shield its own internal documents from public view under the Freedom of Information Act. This means that while DOGE gets to see the private data of millions of Americans, watchdog groups and the public cannot see what DOGE is doing internally. Critics say this creates a one-way mirror. The government can look closely at its citizens, but citizens cannot look closely at this powerful new agency. This combination of rulings has intensified the debate over the balance between government power and individual privacy. So what happens now? The Supreme Court's order is not the end of the story. It is a temporary green light that allows DOGE to access the data while the main legal fight plays out. The case now returns to the 4th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals. This lower court will hold a full hearing to decide the central question. Does the Privacy Act of 1974 allow this kind of massive data transfer without individual consent? The court will hear detailed arguments from both the government and the coalition of unions and retiree groups. Its decision will likely be appealed, meaning this issue could end up back at the Supreme Court for a final binding ruling in the future. This case matters to everyday people because it touches on a fundamental question about life in the digital age. Who controls your personal information? Imagine the government having a single, searchable file containing your health history, financial details, and family life. The benefit, as the government argues, could be a more efficient system that quickly catches criminals who are stealing benefits from those who truly need them. For example, DOGE could cross-reference data to find someone claiming disability benefits while also holding a physically demanding job. This could save billions of dollars meant for retirees and people with disabilities. On the other hand, the risks are enormous. What happens if this centralized database is hacked? The personal information of millions of Americans could be exposed to criminals around the world. There is also the risk of errors. A mistake in the data could lead to an innocent person being wrongly flagged for fraud, causing immense stress and financial hardship. Beyond that, there is the fear of function creep, where data collected for one purpose is slowly used for others like surveillance or enforcing other laws, without public debate or approval. This decision could set a precedent for other government agencies to demand similar access to private data. Ultimately, this legal battle is about finding the right balance. It is a tug-of-war between the government's desire for efficiency and the individual's right to privacy. The outcome will determine the rules for how our personal data is handled by the government for years to come. For now, DOGE has access, and all eyes are on the courts to see where the final line will be drawn. This decision will define the relationship between the citizen and the state in an era where data is more powerful than ever before. It's a story we will be following closely as it affects the privacy and security of every American.